Scotchy, scotch. I love scotch.
Whoa.
In my belly.
What a way to start the day. Welcome, everyone. It's Live at Epiphan. This is episode 125.
125, Live at Epiphan, your favorite Live at Epiphan show.
Hopefully your favorite. Better be your favorite. And I'm back. I missed a couple of weeks.
Were you gone?
Back. Yeah, no one noticed. No one cared.
Yeah, it was 2 weeks.
But yeah, I was gone.
You missed a couple of fun episodes. I got to play some video games.
Yeah, I kind of caught a small piece of that after the fact.
Linda was all over me. She was
just
like,
for sure.
Have we seen Linda yet in the chat?
No, because she's on a road trip at the moment.
Oh.
So shouldn't be hearing from her for today.
So
that'll
be going to be trying to drive.
But of course, hello to everyone else in chat. I am watching chat here, and there was a sort of pre-message ahead of time there that Cord sort of was asking something that we may touch on later.
And you missed a birthday last week?
I did?
Yeah, you did.
I don't care about people's birthdays.
Okay. It's one of our viewers, George.
Yeah.
So hopefully Faithful Mess will be back last week. She missed the show because she was off celebrating her birthday. But
so years ago I stopped wishing people happy birthday on Facebook because if you miss one, everyone complains. So now I just don't do it at all to anyone ever.
I wait for that like thanks for all the happy birthday messages, and then you just type, oh, yeah, that was yesterday.
Anyway, welcome to today's episode. We're going to have some interesting topics that I think a lot of people might find interesting. And it's about all these wonderful gadgets in front of us. So that should be cool. And first, I guess maybe we'll cover some news topics.
Well, since we have the title on the screen, we are going to be talking about the 8 best live cams for live streaming, or excuse me, the best 8 webcams for live streaming. We'll get into that a little bit closer. We'll talk about why webcams are a great place to start if you're doing video live streaming from home, if you're gaming, basically anything. We've got them set up here as well.
It's just like our opinion, though, man.
Hey, and don't Google 8 best live stream or best live webcams because you might get the exact same results. Yeah. But let's talk about the news.
Oh my goodness! And I totally just lost chat. Thanks so much, Aggregate.
Well, I'm ready to talk about
back.
The news. So nothing happened that was interesting in China in the last week. No. They've been kind of laying low. There hasn't been any.
I think we're cutting you off from reading news out of China. So we're going to.
Do you know how much I'm paying to have those news articles translated? Literally thousands of yen. I don't even know. I don't want to even look at my bank statement. But
you found one that I thought was really interesting. And again, not to put any stereotypes on things, but it's not surprising this came out of a southern state. But essentially in Tennessee, their commission basically has gone backwards in time and has decided to do the opposite of what everyone else is doing. And they've banned public streaming of council meetings?
Yeah, so I was reading the article. It looks like they were encountering some issues with folks probably streaming live using their phones or some other live streaming platform. So they've actually banned the public from live streaming council meetings in this particular area in Tennessee.
And at first I understood that, and I went, okay, that's okay. I kind of get that. And then you told me more details about it. It's not that they're doing their own streaming, and so they don't want other people streaming in parallel. It's just that they don't want anyone other than authorized mainstream media covering the meetings, period. Like, this is just a huge, this is the complete
It seems like a big
opposite.
step backwards. And they want to have written permission in advance, so the news outlet is going to have to engage them about it.
Live streaming, as we've often talked about on this show, the democratization of video, if you will, is often used in these public forums to make sure there's better accountability, right? Because it's not being manipulated by the media. So you're getting it raw, essentially. And
we were also seeing that there's not as much general interest in covering these. Right. So you don't have the little gazette, you don't have the small local news station that they're actually sending
because they don't exist anymore.
Yes, they don't exist anymore. So this information is just kind of coming to a stop unless if the council is taking the onus on themselves, streaming it live. And so we're looking at...
Which most are.
Yeah, exactly. We're looking at different markets where folks are doing that. And it is just entirely so that they can say, here's the sunshine, let the sunshine in.
Yeah.
But if any of you are from Tennessee, if you have experience with this, or if you have any questions or comments, please make sure to throw them out.
Strange. It was very strange. It seemed, like I say, kind of going backwards.
Yeah, a little bit backwards. So I think it's basically they're just not going to be sharing their council meetings.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And there were some privacy concerns too, which we used to say.
But it's a public meeting. It's a council meeting. It's a public meeting. Anyway,
exactly.
We can argue about those things all day long, and it won't it won't matter.
No. Now this next news article is a little bit dramatic. One of the Twitch personalities, he recently won a lot of money. Booger?
Yeah,
Bugga?
Kyle. Bugga, I don't know. I've heard
Kyle
his name. His gamer tag pronounced about 1,000 different ways. Yeah. But this kid, he's 16 years old. He just won the Fortnite World Championship for solo stuff. Anyone who doesn't care about gaming is relevant. But I guess with being internet famous comes a little bit of a risk.
Exactly.
And that is, in this case, the other day, he got swatted.
During a live stream.
Which is usually when it happens.
During your live stream?
Yeah.
Well, usually doing something.
It usually happens while you're live.
It only happens to me when I'm in the washroom.
Right. Well, no. So for those of you who don't know what swatting is, essentially it is a situation where a streamer somehow accidentally leaks a piece of information, or someone doxes them, or someone finds out what their address is, and essentially they call in a fake bomb threat, a fake terrorist threat, something like that to the police.
Or a hostage taking.
And literally the SWAT team shows up and kicks in the door.
Yeah. They come in through the window, like on
sometimes.
On
and
the
some
lines,
people find this
in.
hilarious, which is why it always happens during live streams. But this is actually extremely dangerous. There have been several incidents in the U.S. where people have been shot by the police and died because of this. And there are people going through the process right now on trial that will probably spend their lives in prison.
Well, there's a man recently, he was sentenced to 25 years in jail for, what was it, like the manslaughter charge, right? So, and that's the consequence. But the person did die, right? The guy got shot.
I mean,
now, fortunately, one of these officers did recognize Bugga. It was an officer from his neighborhood. I thought it was actually a fan on Twitch, but it was actually an officer that lived in his neighborhood. So he didn't get injured, but I mean, that's pretty intense. And is it only limited to streamers? Like, this is happening to celebrities and
it's primarily happened to streamers, but because they're live, the person doing it is watching the stream, right? And so they're just sitting there, you know, Mr. Burns laugh in the background, waiting to see the police pop through the door, right? And it's not okay. It's extremely dangerous. No. And Faith Musk just saying people can be so hateful. Exactly. And in this case, this is purely out of jealousy. This is a 16-year-old kid who is now a millionaire and famous overnight. By playing video games, which good for him, fantastic for him, but people just being jealous of that and wanting to, ruin him is it's disappointing to see. But what can you do? So back to the topic at hand. But before I do that, I'm going to say hi to some people in chat. So we had a few people in their Faithful Mess, as you mentioned earlier.
Happy belated birthday to Faithful
said
Mess.
Hi. PI Engineering said hi. Marco saying hi from Frankfurt. And some other people saying, well, yeah, we're live. Danny Grizzle saying Tennessee. Oh, yeah, exactly. No one's shocked by that.
Oh,
and someone earlier, honestly, 20 minutes before we went live, commented, are we going to touch on DSLR cameras as well in the stream today? Not exactly, but stay tuned.
Sure.
And
go grab a USB 3 cable.
Exactly.
We'll figure it out.
And Faithfulness, I don't even think Mr. Burns was that evil. He did block out the sun that one time.
Exactly.
So back to the topic, episode 125, topic, webcams. We have more than 8 of them, but the title is 8.
We have several, so if you want to learn more about the 8 best webcams for live streaming that we recommend, please check out our blog post.
Yeah,
we go a little bit deeper in the topic, but we are going to be going over this as well. We have a few here that we're going to test out live on the show. We have a couple that aren't actually in that blog post that we got our hands on. I was actually surprised. I put out a call in the office earlier this week, said, bring me your webcams. And we got just about all the webcams that are the best webcams for live streaming.
We did get quite a few, good and bad, and we're definitely going to cover those. I ran through this morning, pretty much all of these to sort of just do my own 2 cents, and I have a whole list here that I'll kind of throw
the grind your gears.
Grind my gears, yeah. I'll throw that in there. But,
hi, Vanessa.
Yeah, people walking through the studio. So why are we even talking about this?
Well, webcams are a great way to get into live streaming. So if you're just starting out, you want to dip your feet in, you're a gamer, maybe you want to talk about, your cooking, you want to talk about arts and crafts that you do, a webcam is a great way to get into it. They're not expensive. They're really easy to use. Just plug and play.
They don't have to be expensive.
They don't
have
to be expensive. Yeah, exactly. So we're actually going to be talking about 3 different price categories on the show, but they're super easy. Right? Like you can have an external webcam. It's not going to be the one that you have in your laptop.
Well, that's one of the things we wanted to touch on as part of this in researching it, is that in general, there's the impression that webcams are very low quality. And that can be true, especially when you're talking about built-in ones on laptops, right? Because they sacrifice that because of the physical space and the actual lid. I actually used the webcam I used to have at home. I actually now own one of these, and I'll tell you way later which one it is. But at home, I used to use one that I actually dismantled a broken laptop, extracted the little board that has the webcam on it, and rewired it, and was using that at home for a long time.
Nice.
It's terrible. Don't do it. It's better
Every time
to
you
spend.
touch it, you get that little.
Yeah, it's better to spend a little bit of money. So but there are some of the examples here, and we're going to go through the good and bad of these, that actually can, in the right situations, can be really, really good. Is it going to replace your Alpha 6300 like we're using right now? No, let's not be crazy.
Maybe in a couple of years.
But I think for a lot of people, like you said, starting out, maybe doing certain types of content, there's one of these cameras is going to suit.
Absolutely, absolutely. And there is a camera that's going to fit your budget. There's a camera that's going to fit your use. If you're going to be doing a tight shot, there's a camera for that. If you're going to be doing a wider shot, there's a camera for that. Until recently, until I found a GoPro laying around in the back, we were actually using a webcam that was our cutaway camera. So that was our wide cam, because you couldn't tell the difference when you throw an overlay on it.
Exactly.
It looked great.
You're just showing a behind the scenes thing. So
exactly.
Yeah. So one thing we would mention, we did say that, is we were not going to be covering those built-in internal ones today because they're all kind of there have been some decent ones that Apple has put into their larger monitors or even some of the MacBooks, but
yeah, the eyesight line is pretty good, but, in reality it's not practical unless you're only doing gaming.
Exactly.
Right?
So
but still,
for the purposes of today, we are talking about external webcams because they are always going to be your best choice if you're in a webcam. I guess the big thing is they're easy.
Yeah,
right?
totally.
I mean, we have a mess of wires back here from all these cameras, but you plug it in, it's USB, right? I mean, anybody who can plug in USB, which is always on the third try, because,
Well, we're going over our primer, so what is that, what is the language, or it's not a language, what's the protocol for USB cameras?
So it used to be that they required custom drivers, that's going way, way back, but today pretty much all webcams are based on UVC, Universal Video Class, and that means they're generally plug-and-play, driverless devices to plug in. That's not true of all webcams, and some webcams are kind of a weird hybrid where custom software can be added to enhance some of the features.
And we have a couple of those here today.
Yeah, but their core functionality is plug-and-play driverless, which means it's going to work on just about anything. You plug it into a Windows PC, you plug it into a Linux box, you plug it into Mac OS, you plug it into a Chromebook, like whatever you have. Pretty much any of these are going to work on those in their basic setup.
Yeah, it would be the automatic settings, everything that's just by default.
Exactly.
And then if you want to get a little bit closer into cropping, maybe digital zoom, there's color changes.
Exactly.
Right? But so we're going to be going over a few different specifications on cameras.
Yeah.
So all of these cameras have a few things in common. Some of them have some extra bells and whistles, but they're all going to have a resolution and a frame rate, obviously.
Yep.
So we're going to be going over what those different resolutions are, what the different frame rates are. We're also going to be covering field of view.
Right.
So tell us more about what is a field of view and why would that be why would that
FOV.
matter for
well, it's your
webcam?
angle, right? So depending on your camera, there's going to be a field of view, the angle, and sort of that degrees of which you can see. As humans, we see. What is it, like 170 or something like that with our peripheral vision, or without having?
I have no idea what that is.
It's something like that. I'm just basing that.
And is
on
that
the
in
fact
mils
that
or that degrees? You
it's
said
degrees,
degrees, right?
It's in degrees.
So that's where it's different. If you're not familiar with the degrees versus mils, 150 mil would be a really tight lens, so it's going to be a telephoto lens.
Yeah, so I guess that's one of the things we should touch on first, is that when we're looking at those measurements, webcams don't use the same measurements as photography lenses typically do. Although you can translate them, like you're saying, it is a bit different.
Yeah.
So your typical webcam is usually going to be somewhere between 78 and 90 degrees FOV. And that's going to be, pretty good in there.
Well, and that's that exact shape that you're making, right? So it's this is the field of view, and that's the degrees. So the wider the degree, the more of a field of view that you have.
So some people might be more used to it in the sense of a GoPro, where in the wide setting of a GoPro, it's like 120 degrees or something like that.
Very distorted.
Very distorted, very fisheye. And we'll touch on some of the effects of that here. But many webcams are only about 78 degrees. It's fairly narrow. It's not a huge spread.
Well, it is a natural, right? Because it's a little bit closer to what you would be seeing, but still
typically
a little bit tighter.
Yeah, exactly. So that's one thing we're going to look at. Resolution is also a big one.
The resolution and frame rate.
Yeah, resolution and frame rate for different applications. Those are going to be important, and we're going to talk about those. Lens quality, and I think that can play into just overall sensor quality, if you will. We'll kind of blend those together into one comment.
Well, we saw like some that are plastic, some that are glass. It doesn't really matter in a webcam.
No, not unless you're beating it up.
Yeah, I guess, right?
Plastic's obviously going to scratch easier.
Yeah.
And then low light performance. Again, that kind of goes into that sensor technology.
Totally. And if you are looking at doing streaming for gaming, you're not going to want to have a big honking light, and it's going to be distracting you from the gameplay. Something with lower light performance.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. Lower light performance is better.
So we're going to look at some of those things, and again, most of this list is commenting about those subjects.
And we'll go over all the extra features
and then there's
that the cameras might have.
Extras. And sometimes that does require adding additional software beyond the basic plug and play, whether that's from the camera manufacturer themselves or maybe third-party tools that can help you enhance some of that.
Cool.
So now that you're primed, kind of what we're going to be talking about. And some people are commenting already when we're saying LifeCam 2018 edition, the default configuration is awful, but if you play with it in OBS, it's it can be better. It's decent.
So does OBS have some inline controls for webcams over UVC?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. There are some basic UVC controls that you can kind of play around with. Faithful Messer saying, I wish there was a third port on the Webcaster X2, 2 for cameras and 1 for the Yeti. Yeah. On a box that small, that would be challenging to bring in multiple inputs. Best thing I can suggest there is put an external HDMI mixer in front and have more HDMI cameras, honestly.
Check out next week's episode.
It says TBD at the end of this.
Oh yeah, well, I meant to print another copy. We actually know what we're doing next week. Now, we're going to be going over a few different webcams. Of course, we're going to be talking about everything in US dollars. So these are just the MSRPs on all these products. And these are the ones that we found online, and we also have in the office to play with. Yeah.
The other thing, obviously, is we put this into categories of price bracket, like you said, those MSRPs, and I guess we'll give our opinion on which in that price bracket would be your best bang for the buck. Because at the end of the day, when you're shopping for a webcam, that should probably be your number one priority: is bang for the buck. Yeah. So hopefully, you come away with some top quality consumer advice today. Rarely do we do so. So very first one, we were arguing about
in the studio here.
We were arguing about the name of this one. Ausdom, AUSDOM.
Yeah, it's the Ausdom HD 1080p webcam.
Yeah.
So it's pretty standard, right? 1080 at 30, so 30 frames per second. So it's not going to be great for a lot of motion, but if you're using it.
I bet you this is available on Amazon under about 10 different random names that are all using the exact same thing.
And this guy retails for about $40 US.
Yes, so it's very inexpensive.
Depending on what the sale is.
Yeah. So this one. I went into testing this one this morning thinking that this thing was going to be kind of a piece of junk and would be absolutely terrible. And you know what? I came away not totally hating it. So it's the second cheapest on our table here. But it is by no means the worst.
Well, no, and I was actually, because George and I sit pretty close together, and I could hear you talking, and you were going over all these different webcams, and then you got to this one, and you're like, oh, well, look at that. Interesting.
Yeah, so one of the things so it only does 1080-30, so it's, like you said, it's not going to be great for a lot of fast motion, but if you're shooting yourself sitting in a fixed position, that's probably the best thing suited for this. One of the reasons for that is that it is the only one that we're talking about today that uses a manual focus. It has no autofocus. You have to twist the lens to focus.
Yeah, so you can see me just in this wider shot. I'm twisting it.
Yeah, so
and then Lisa, if you go back into that other one, sorry. George,
one of the bad things, of course, about that is that if you're moving or you're changing positions, or maybe you're trying to shoot a room, this is probably not.
No, it's not going to be ideal.
But what I did find was that when you play with that focus a lot and you crank it way down, you can almost turn this thing into a macro. Like,
yeah, let's see if we can actually
so
we can demonstrate that.
You got to turn it a lot, but
to the left. Oh no, to the right.
But I found that when I was playing with it, I was actually able to get this thing like less than a quarter inch from a circuit board and be able to clearly see a lot of detail. Basically, I could get as close until there was no light, and I was able to get some clarity on it. So for some of the finer projects, even looking at things like circuit boards or things like that, where you might want to take video or snapshots of really tight close-ups, this actually might be a good choice and a very economical choice where basically no other camera we're talking about today has a focal range that tight.
Interesting.
They just can't. So that one, it's inexpensive. I might not recommend it as a primary camera, but maybe if you're someone who's creating content like artwork or looking at circuit boards or other fine detail, that might make the great secondary close-up cam. And for $40, I mean, it's pretty reasonable.
We didn't take a really close look at audio. We didn't record audio and play it back. But this one does have 2 built-in mics. And obviously, if you're doing streing,
yeah, we didn't really do an audio test because
grab a mic.
Yeah, exactly. We didn't do an audio test on the mics because they're all going to be pretty meh.
I wouldn't recommend using the onboard microphone on a DSLR or mirrorless either. So.
As Faithful Mess pointed out, if you're really into that, go out and buy a Yeti or something like that, or some other, higher quality microphone that's going to give you something there. So Stefan's saying, hey, he's late. Hey, Stefan, welcome.
Ah, Stefan.
Yeah, so the next one, this is the cheapest webcam on the table.
Now, this isn't actually the same
not on
model.
The blog. Yeah, this isn't on the blog. So this is the Microsoft LifeCam HD 3000. So in the blog, we talk about the LifeCam Studio, which is a much higher end version. And you have a picture of that when you can pull up. But this one, the 3000, I tested this this morning. So here's a picture. This is a picture of the actual one we talk about in the blog. And this we don't have in the office, unfortunately. But I'm betting this one, because I have an older version of this one from like 8 years ago, that's probably a very, very good camera for what it is. This one, on the other hand, is the smallest camera we have. It's the 3000. I saw that this is on Amazon on sale today for $25 US.
This is a great viewer experience right now.
Yeah.
This Blair Witch cam that we have.
I got to tell you, after playing with this morning, I wouldn't pay $2 for this camera. It's terrible.
It's yours.
It's awful.
$2.
It's so bad. So what were my notes? It's very small, but overall terrible was my opening line on my notes. So its regular price is nearly $40. It's nearly the same price as this one. But the colors are terrible. The sensor is noisy. The low light performance is bad. It's a fixed focus. There's no autofocus. There's no manual focus.
And are we talking about this one, or are we talking about the LifeCam Studio? We're talking about this actual model.
This one, not the Studio. The Studio, I'm sure, is fine. We just didn't have it to test.
Yeah.
But this one it's just bad.
What was the field of view on this one? Is it the same as the Studio?
I actually didn't check. I was so annoyed. I just kind of I just didn't care. It only does 720. It doesn't do 1080. So it's only 720/30. So resolution's low, frame rate is, usually when you want to go to 720, you can argue that it might have a higher frame rate. This one doesn't do that either.
Yeah, because 720, then you're bringing it in at 60, you can do some slow-mo stuff.
This is not going to be an upgrade over what's built into your laptop's lid.
No, definitely not.
So I would not waste your time with this at all, unless you want to buy something that says Skype certified on the box. I don't see the point.
And I just want to take a moment to thank Steven for donating his his camera for us to review all over.
Yeah. I will also point out, though, that not only did I test these cameras this morning on my Windows PC,
that's right,
but I also tested this on our Webcaster X2, all of them that I tested, and on our Pearl family of products. This works on PC. I didn't test it on Mac, but you just did, so it obviously works.
Works fine.
I tested on both Pearl Mini and Pearl 2, works fine. It does not work on the Webcaster X2. So there's another reason not to use this. There's something funny about this camera that it will not work on a Webcaster X2. So if you're looking for
the QA guys, they're probably already aware of that.
$25 thing for a Webcaster as a second camera, not this one.
Don't use
like
that guy.
If I could, I would throw this across the room. Enough of that, right?
You can do it after the show.
Yeah. So next up.
Yeah,
Marta's asked that you not shake the webcam.
Oh, Marta's getting some motion sickness.
Well, you know, what are you going to do?
Sorry, Marta.
Yeah, so, and Stefan was saying in here, even with a webcam, you should try and have a glass lens. Yeah, exactly. I mean, let's see, he bought a Logitech conference cam. Oh, that's one of the higher end Logitech, HDMI or USB Logitech conference cam. Has a 10 times zoom and glass lens. Yeah, we don't have that camera, Stefan, but I've heard it is actually quite nice. So yeah, when he gets it, you're going to try with the X2. Please let me know how that turns out, Stefan. That sounds interesting. Yeah, D. Scott is saying you should start with a webcam that's 1080p or it doesn't matter. Well, we did. We started with the Ausdom, which is 1080p. So our next one.
So this next one is the Logitech C920 HD Pro.
Yeah, so Logitech
webcam.
C920, aka the world's most popular webcam.
Basically. And webcam body. Right?
Logitech has about 4 different models that all use the same body.
Exactly. It's all the same body on there.
The C920 has been around for a long time now, and there's a reason for that. It is, by and large, I would say, you know, maybe without spoiler alert, it might be overall the best camera we're talking about today in terms of price and what you get out of it. Yeah, so did you have a chance to play with it a bit today?
I got to play with all of these as I was plugging them in. I definitely like how this one was more balanced on like the exposure, like the automatic exposure. So set it up, crisp up right away, the focus worked right away. I was hoping you could answer this. We talked about it a little bit before the show, but how does focus work on a lens like this if it doesn't actually have something like, because I pull focus, right?
Yeah, it's some sort of digital focus.
Some digital
on those
magic in there.
Yeah, but the 920 is a great camera, and it is what I bought at home. That when I said earlier, I replaced that old laptop scrap stuff. I bought a 920 because on Prime Day, they were like almost 60% off. So you were able to get a 920, which is normally MSRP about $70, or somewhere between $60 and $70. I was able to get one for about $40, the same price as the Ausdom. And if you're comparing those at that price, there's no question the C920 is a far superior camera.
Now this is the first one that we've actually looked at as well. I should point out that has a mount on it. So this does give you a little bit more latitude when you go to use your camera. You can put it onto a small tripod. You could put it onto a mount that you could put onto a light stand, or actually have some versatility. With these other guys, you don't really have that ability.
It just has the little clip on the monitor. Exactly. Yeah. But this one, Logitech, once you start getting into this range and you start hitting that $70, $60, $70 MSRP price point, you're starting to see those 1/4-inch threads pop up where you can start mounting them on tripods, which, again, if you're, I said, if you're doing close-up shots with this, it would be nice to maybe use as an overhead for close-ups. Yeah. But mounting that would actually be very difficult.
Well, and we didn't, honestly, we didn't pull this one apart, so I don't know if there isn't something in here that you can actually,
well, one of the things with the Logitech, of course, is that you could, with that screw mount, you could mount this to something and do an easy overhead shot and stuff like that. So
you can articulate it as well, which is good.
Yeah, it has a pretty flexible and very stable base. These flexy ones are kind of, but that one's very solid and stable.
Totally.
So what did I say about the 920? It's solid. The color is good, like you said. So that's the other thing, color reproduction is important. Color is good on the C920. The autofocus is quick and adapts very well. You could get it to autofocus about 2 inches at its best, which still, that's pretty good for most close-ups.
Yeah. Well, they're not all intended for macro cams, right?
The overall quality of the image is good. It's not super noisy or anything like that. The low light performance is good. And it worked on everything. Works on Mac, works on Windows, works on the Webcaster X2 very well, works on the Pearls very well. So it's a great choice. You can't really go wrong with a 920. Especially if you get it when it's on sale, like on Prime Day. Then it's a killer deal, for sure.
So set your calendar for 11 months from now. When the next Prime Day comes
exactly.
up. All right, well, let's jump into our next category. So the next category, and we do have, we're going to talk about our next category. So it's $100 to $130. Yeah. So you're willing to invest a little bit more into a webcam. Maybe you need some more options for mounting, maybe a built-in light.
This is also the crossover where my expectations also increase.
Yeah, exactly.
Because at this point, if I'm spending over $100, I could get a used Handycam for $100, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I better be getting something out of a webcam at $100 to $130.
Well, and what are those Canons that we have? I'm sure you can get those now, like the GX5s, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I'm going to look at chat here very quickly, just see. Let's see, Stefan's saying, be the bad camera with an AVIO. Yeah, for sure, exactly. A capture card like an AVIO and a used Handycam, you're still in for a fair bit of money there, but it is going to be superior in a lot of ways. D. Scott is saying he has a Logitech C310 and it's pretty good. I haven't tried the C310 myself, but I know that it is the cheaper Logitech stuff, and it's probably fine. So yeah, I guess the other thing we'll point out, FOV wise, the C920 is a 78-degree FOV, so it's kind of average in the middle.
Yeah. Nothing to write home about.
Faithful Nest saying Logitech is definitely the most popular. I'm just not sold on getting one as a second angle. Well, hopefully, after we talk about all of these, you'll have a good thing there.
Yeah, there's some other Logitechs that we'll cover as well that could legitimately work as a second angle camera.
Exactly.
And really, it depends on what you're willing to invest in. Yeah. And when you're starting out, that's kind of where you have to go budget-wise. But the next one we're looking at is the Razer Kiyo.
Yeah.
Kiyo?
Kiyo? I don't know. It's Razer. They got weird names. Razer, for those of you who don't know Razer, they are a very gamer-focused peripheral company. They primarily make keyboards and mice for gaming. They've also started doing microphones to compete against things like the Blue Yeti for gamers, and then a couple years ago they also started doing a webcam specifically targeted at gamers as well. And their gimmick, the most unique thing about it, is the built-in dimmable ring light. So it's the only one that has a light that we're talking about today. And it's kind of interesting, actually.
I was trying to explain, because Lisa was asking me earlier, like, what's the point of the ring light? And I think it's so that you get that, that ring light in your eye, the reflection.
It's also just more even, right?
Well, yeah, it's more even, but you also get that, I really like that cool effect in the eye that you get from the ring light.
It's very CSI, too,
Yeah, it's very CSI. Now, this is actually really neat. This one feels super solid. Razer does a great job on the product, the design, everything's very cool. It does not look like a webcam.
No, right? It's heavy too. Like the base is very solid. It's heavy. So it's not going to shake around. No. That's the one thing, is that when it's sitting, it's going to be stable. It has the 1/4-inch tripod mount as well, so you can screw it down to something. Has similar articulations to the Logitechs, which is nice. The ring light is unique, and that's kind of different. But you'll notice here, when you pull this up, Lisa.
Yeah, if you give us the widescreen, you can see the focus as well.
It is 1080-30 or 720-60. It does have autofocus, which is pretty good. Slightly wider FOV to the 920. But one of the things I think everyone will notice right away looking at this, and my biggest complaint about the Razer, is the color.
Yeah, what's going on? I'm looking at the jaundice here.
It is, it's super oversaturated on greens and yellows. Like, look at the roll of green screen behind us.
Yeah, that is I didn't notice that. I didn't notice that.
But it's blue. Its blue are super weak, and its red's not all that great. It's only certain things that are just way oversaturated.
I look like a Simpsons character in there.
Yeah, so it's really strange, and I don't like that. I really don't. It's one of the biggest thing I don't like about it. Image quality wise, it's It's pretty sharp. It looks nice. I remember testing it when we first got it, and the microphone was not very good.
Where is it?
Exactly.
Oh yeah.
Exactly.
It looks like you heated up
weak.
the end of
it's
a
pretty
paper
weak.
clip and just poked a hole in there.
Yeah.
Now
So
I do like the paracord. I should say I wanted to get that in.
Cord's
on the hardware.
nice.
The paracord is nice, like that braided cable, because those are a lot harder to
like
tangle.
it feels really high quality. The ring light is cool, but
That's weird. Why didn't I notice that when I was at my desk? So like, is it the lighting that we have in here? Maybe like we've got some
you notice
competing
it
color
everywhere.
temperatures.
Well,
okay.
it's probably more noticeable in here, but
Okay.
even when I was playing with it earlier, it's always noticeable.
Because I had some daylight, or because you're closer to the back. I've got more
Well,
daylight
even when I
coming
had
in.
it on the Pearl and I had it pointed at Adam's face, he's blonde and his hair was like, whoa,
Yeah,
what this
Adam's-
is. So,
Is Adam a great example of normal skin tone though?
physically, I like this camera. Especially because when you fold it up, it's kind of just got this cool little ring thing. It comes in a little bag.
It looks sexy. It's sexy a little bit.
But I struggle to actually recommend it.
Did you want to like it
because-
more than you actually did?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mostly because of the colors. And that tells me that the sensor they're using is just cheap because it's not calibrated. I'm sure if there was a way to recalibrate this sensor, you could fix that. But it means it's not leaving the factory calibrated properly. That bothers me.
Well, we did have auto low light correction is on there, so maybe that low light correction is mucking with it. But usual specs, right? 720, 60, 1080, 30. It has that kind of average.
But this is an
field of
MSRP
view.
$100 camera.
You're paying for the brand, right?
You're paying for the brand, you're paying for the light.
Yeah, the light is cool.
But the image quality overall, even if we take out the oversaturation aside, is not any better than a C920. And it is oversaturated. And so I think unless you need the ring light, which again, if you're doing close-ups, the ring light is going to be awesome because you're actually, because that's the other thing. This ring light's good for this distance, but if I put it over here, it's useless.
Yeah, it doesn't add any value.
So I think you would have to really want a close-up ring light for this to actually have the value of its price.
And
Otherwise,
you did say the audio wasn't that great,
No.
and I did have to dig on the site to find that audio specification, and they have it in there as an omnidirectional mic, which I think they're just calling there's a mono mic on there, and they're calling it omnidirectional. But anywho,
Exactly. So after that,
after that one, so we have another Logitech.
C920 Redux.
Yeah, exactly. The reboot.
So this is the Logitech C922X.
I'm trying to get it into the wrong port.
So this is a slight upgrade in the C900 line from Logitech. Came out after the original C920 and just added some extra stuff.
But that is way crisper. Look at that.
It is crisper, but it's not a massive difference. It is crisper though, for sure. But some of the differences are
picture in picture. You can't tell the difference in the quality.
This one will do 720/60, where the C920 won't.
Okay.
But it's low light performance, it's autofocus. The overall image quality is very, very similar. There's not a lot different to it. Same field of view. The biggest thing here that Logitech's trying to convince you to spend that extra 20, 30 bucks on is their software that will do background replacement without chroma keying.
Okay.
But I've heard from a number of different people that the Logitech software for that is actually kind of janky and
Would
is
that
not
be
very
in?
good.
Would that be in here?
Maybe.
Maybe. Okay, because I only just started playing around with this earlier. It's like the actual software for controlling some of the features on the Logitech cameras.
Right.
And I thought there was like some really silly, like there's some silly features, right? Like black and white. And
Yeah, there's some pretty silly stuff in
cartoon.
there.
Sickness on you just looks normal.
It's true.
Yeah.
Sorry guys, I'm trying to fix my chat here. My chat aggregate exploded and says the chat got turned off. So I apologize for 1 second. I'm just going to try and actually pull up YouTube instead.
Lisa, what have you done?
So
I didn't do anything. It didn't work for me.
exactly.
Probably the mods.
Yeah, and Stefan was saying Marantz turret. Oh, I should have grabbed that. The Marantz turret also has a ring light. We do have one of those here.
Oh, okay.
We didn't test it today because it's actually broken. But
Is that the brand name is Marantz?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the turret, maybe, well, we could try messaging someone. Yell at
to crawl underneath the desk. Well, some of the features on the 922, while George looks that up, I think you got into it already. We do have 720/60, 1080/30. There's autofocus. We saw that. Field of view is pretty standard at 78. I don't think there's any way to adjust that on this model.
No.
The built-in stereo mics, I would actually believe that this is a true stereo mic because there is left and right on there versus some of them that say that. And it's like our very first model, it's just two holes
Exactly,
that are
and
pretty close
they do
together.
try and argue that this has a stereo mic, which is also an upgrade over the regular C920. I think even that you're probably not going to tell a big difference, right? Because the stereo mics that are like a half an inch apart, or whatever. But again, if you, and I know because I also bought it on Prime Day for my niece, because the 922, if you can get it on sale, is a great value. Because you'll get it for perfect,
that thing.
Adam.
Here, I'll go over there.
So it's a good value. If you can get it.
I like it when people do this when you're shooting in public and they're like,
oh, yeah, you don't see me.
Thank you, Adam. All right, so this is a...
Yeah, we're not going to plug this in, but this is
the
this is the Marantz turret that Stefan was mentioning. The turret's kind of interesting. It has a webcam with a ring light, and it has a big microphone on it on a boom. It's kind of cool. It's kind of interesting. It's got a headphone jack. You can monitor your audio. It's got a USB hub on it. It's kind of interesting. It's got some unique stuff to it. This one is broken, so don't even bother.
Did you? Oh, you tried plugging it in?
Yeah, it's broken.
What a question.
Yeah. Right. So this might be now. This is kind of out of phase here with what our plan was, but this is $300 plus. This is not a cheap thing at all.
Well, we probably need to power it too, right? It's not just going to be USB.
No,
power.
I tried before.
It's
just broken. I know it's broken. So this is cool and all. It has an interesting concept. The camera, from what I recall, was 920-ish range. If you were going to be buying a $100 webcam and a $150 Blue Yeti microphone and some other stuff, this might be a value proposition. But aside from that, yeah, not sure.
All right, well, I'm going to gently place it down.
Just because Stefan brought it up, we threw that in there. Where were we? 922. So yeah, the 922, I think, at its full price is, personally, I don't think it's worth that price difference over the 920 at its regular price. But again, if you're getting it on sale, where it's down to the regular price of a 920, why not? Yeah. You get a few extras out of it. So it's kind of a nice thing.
Now, the next one on the list is also another Logitech. It's one that we don't have here in the office, but I did notice on there that it has a different lens. So on this particular model, it does feature the Carl Zeiss Tesla lens.
Marketing fluff.
Yeah, exactly.
Anytime you see Carl Zeiss, it's just marketing fluff.
It's just the brand. Just the brand.
Yeah, it's just the brand. But the 930, what's different on it? It'll do, again,
well, 720/60, 1080/30.
Yeah, but it has the 90-degree FOV. So it's going to be better for shooting a meeting room, maybe people sitting at a table. It's going to give you that wider angle shot, which is nice. It also has a 4x digital zoom on it. The 920 and the 922 don't have a digital zoom.
If you do the picture-in-picture, Lisa, we'll see just what this guy looks like.
It's the same body style, same mount, same everything. It just has some extra stuff.
It's silver.
Has the stereo mics. It claims to have some better light correction, but again, I haven't played with that myself.
Now, one thing that we noticed too is that it doesn't have that matte box either.
Yeah, it's a little different. So the lens is definitely different, although they're using the same package. So, I mean, again, this is something that's jumping up to $130 price point MSRP. And I suspect unless you need that digital zoom or you need that wider FOV, I don't know.
Well, and the digital zoom is just a crop, and that would be my suspicion on why it doesn't have the matte box.
And again, you can crop that
pull
yourself
in a little bit more
if you
image.
really want, right? Unless you're a Skype person, and Skype's not going to crop it for you. But if you're using it for streaming, which is generally the context of what we're talking about today, OBS will crop it for you. Or someone was pointing out earlier, background replacement. OBS can do that too. There's lots of things to do that.
Yeah, there's no longer a camera feature. Right, that used to be a camera feature before, and now it's just a software feature. So it's not a big deal.
So also within that $100 range,
right below the $100 range.
Yeah, just below the $100 range is a brand new camera from our friends at PTZOptics. So some of you who tuned in a couple weeks ago when Paul was a guest on our show heard him talk about this camera launching. And they did their own episode about it the other day, I believe.
Yeah, they actually just put out some marketing material. So what PTZOptics is really gearing towards with this camera is the fact that it's just accessible. So this is a very inexpensive camera, and you do get a lot of features that you wouldn't normally see. So they're kind of gearing it towards just being everybody's camera. Yeah. Right. They have a slick little ad that they put together with, you know, the girl doing a makeup tutorial. There's the guy doing a podcast. There's another guy doing gaming.
They mentioned they want to try and target esports a bit with it, which means gaming and stuff like that. So I tested this camera a couple of times since we got it, since they sent it to us. And so I had a few things. First, probably the number one feature that they're probably going to focus on, I think, in their marketing is that the lens, most of the cameras like the Logitechs and some of these others are an f2.0 lens. This is an f1.8.
Yeah.
And when you use it in low light, you notice. It makes a big difference. The low light performance of this PTZOptics camera is way ahead of everything else on the table. I mean, right now we're actually blowing it out a bit.
Well, and we were talking about this and trying to figure out, okay, well, this is a 1.8, and what are the other ones? And they don't market that, right?
Some of them, like this one, tells you it's a 2.0. There's a couple of others that say it's a 2.0, but I've never seen anything below 2.0, and this is a 1.8. So it's very nice. The other thing, where were my notes on it here? The image quality is actually very crisp. I'm really impressed with the overall image quality.
It is very sharp.
When you get the lighting right, the image quality is very, very crisp.
Well, and we're not doing it a service in this setup because we are
like even just that. Like look, when we had the Logitechs or some of these other pointed at Lisa, it was grainy. It just didn't. But look at that.
I mean, I don't see any noise on that at all.
And it's bright.
So I should point out too, and just so that it's super clear, there is some controls for this camera that we don't have access to because I'm just running this off Mac OS.
So I said extremely bright, low light performance is top. The autofocus is very good. And one of the things I'll point out is that a lot of these cameras, the autofocus is just some sort of weird digital autofocus. This one actually has a servo inside doing the autofocus. So when you're holding it and you kind of put your hand in front and stuff like that, you feel the camera twist, and when you listen to it, you can hear it. So it's like legit mechanical autofocus. Yeah. Like that's kind of cool.
Now this does seem kind of gimmicky, just as I'm flipping it around, but this is a good feature, right?
It's you don't have to put gaff tape on your camera, and you can use a cap.
That's right on there. Sorry, Mark, you can't watch me at home. But yeah, this is clever, and it's not something you're gonna lose too, right? So it is actually a really practical feature.
Yeah, it's nice.
Now, did you think these were vents for heating? Is that what you said before? Okay.
And especially because now that I know it has a servo in there, that doesn't surprise me at all.
That makes sense.
The mount is pretty solid. The camera itself is a bit big, but again, unless you're trying to put it in your pocket and travel with it, who cares? What I did notice is that there's two mount options actually. Yeah. You can unscrew the base entirely, and there's a standard quarter-inch thread under there that you can just screw straight to a tripod.
And this is the first one that we've seen like this. Yeah. The other models, you're kind of beholden to this other one where it's good, but it could also make it a little bit more.
Or they have a second mount on the articulated arm as well.
Yeah.
So you actually have two different ways of mounting it hard, which is kind of nice. I don't find it like it's not noisy at all in low light. It's very good. Let me see. I would say, considering the competition in that price range, if I had to go out and spend between $100 and $130, I might buy that one over the 922 or the 930. Certainly.
Spend the $98 on that one.
Yeah, and I think they have a promo price right now.
Cool.
I think I saw in my emails. I might be wrong.
If you ask Paul nicely, I might send you another one.
One thing I did notice, I stopped mentioning compatibility with some of the things I was testing earlier on some, and I apologize for that. 922 works on PCs, Macs, obviously. Webcaster and Pearls works great. The PTZOptics works on PC, works awesome. It does not work on the Webcaster, and I don't know why yet. It doesn't detect at all. and I think it might be a power draw thing. I think it's drawing a little extra juice, because again, it has that servo in there. I had a similar issue trying to run it through a USB hub on my computer that was unpowered. So I think it just draws some extra juice.
Power consumption, 1.4 watts. Is that like, do you know
I'd have to
what
do
that would be?
Okay.
Okay. But no fret, if you are looking to use this with your webcaster, we are going to pass this along to our QA team.
QA and dev teams are going to take a look.
But
I also found that I'm pretty sure it's doing some compression at 1080 on the camera itself. And when we hook that up to a Pearl 2 or a Pearl Mini, we're doing some weird decode from that camera.
So the encoding and the decoding isn't lining up?
Yeah, and it's not good. It's not good. So I know Paul tested it on his Pearl Mini, but I don't know if he noticed that, but on my tests, close up it was fine, but at range, where I actually think this camera is really, really good, like shooting a big room, especially a dark room, that's where you notice that weird glitching. So we're going to hand it off to our QA team and dev team.
Well, and you want to get a lot of motion in there too, right, when you're testing out these cameras, because that's going to be the true test of the sensor. If you can move around and there's no artifacting, then that's good. But
right, and that was not the case.
Yeah.
So, but overall, I'm actually very impressed with this.
Well, this is their entry into this webcam market, so it's a really good.
I'm impressed. I like
first entry,
and I'm sure there'll be firmware updates along the line to improve things. So that's always good. So flipping over.
I gotta pick up the pace. We're starting to run a little long.
What page are we on?
This one actually reminds me. Do you remember that movie Scanners with the robots that replicated and killed people? They would dig through the sand.
Yeah.
This kind of reminds me of the scanner robot.
Our last category is the Richie Rich category, the 200+ club.
So this is around 200 or more, so 200 USD, so about $500 or $600 Canadian. And the first one that we're looking at is the Creative Blaster X Zen 3D.
We don't actually have one here in the office. My first response was, Creative still exists?
I know, right? I thought of speakers right away.
I thought of sound cards from Creative Labs, Sound Blaster 3D back in the day.
Yeah, exactly.
Any of you remember that? Shout out in the chat. So that one, I mean, spec-wise, it seems like it shouldn't cost $200.
No. Actually, Lisa, if you want to throw the specs back up, this one didn't have a whole lot that you wouldn't see in other ones, and a lot of the additional bells and whistles.
It's software.
It's all software, so it's all this kind of proprietary
facial recognition
and
analysis, gesture tracking, voice command. That's all software. That's not the camera. Yeah. Who cares?
Well, and what are you shooting in infrared?
Right, and
so
it's
there's
only
a different degree between the
1080/30.
two. Yeah.
And it has a 77 FOV in RGB, which is actually kind of narrow. That's the narrowest that we've looked at. And then an 85 FOV in IR. Well, what?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. What are you shooting in infrared that you want to show?
It seems odd.
On your
Dual
web show.
omnidirectional night with noise reduction, echo cancellation, and voice morphing. Voice morphing again is software. Echo cancellation is probably also software. So I don't know. I have a hard time buying that one, which is probably why we don't have it in the office.
I think
we literally didn't.
It's geared towards hostage takers that need to change the background and their voice.
Now it looks cool. Did Lisa pull up the picture of it?
Yeah, we had that up for a moment.
I like that. But it's competition. If you have to spend $200 on a webcam, then I think our next one stands by itself.
Well, I think they looked at the Logitech line and were just like, what's Logitech going to look like in 10 years? And they stole that design before they could get to it.
Exactly. So the next entry in the $200 club is, I think, again, if you have to spend $200 on a webcam, I think this is the only way to go.
This is the guy.
This is the Logitech Brio Ultra HD webcam. It is $200, but it does 4K. Does 4K 30. It does 1080/60.
Oh, look at that.
And it does a whole bunch of other stuff. This is a very high quality webcam.
Yeah, that is a good looking camera.
The color is great. The image quality is very sharp. It's hard to say. So it's very expensive. It's very expensive. If you don't need 1080/60 or 4K, it's probably just whatever. But just look at the contrast when you put that on me. Nothing has come close to that.
The blacks do look really good. And this one I was playing around with in the app a little bit, so I'm just going to bring that up again.
Yeah, there's more you can do in the Logitech app to play with it. But some of the other things I like about it, and one of the things Cameron was playing with while plugging it in, it uses a detachable USB-C cable. Now why I like that is because if your cable breaks, you can just use any USB-C cable.
Yeah.
You could go get a USB-C to USB-C instead of the USB-C to Type A that comes with it. If you need a longer cable or whatever, an off-the-shelf USB-C cable will plug into that, and you can do that.
So I'm just playing with the focus here. Yeah. And I think that this also has a mechanical...
It has a 5x digital zoom, I think, but it has an automatic contrast exposure adjustment, which many don't. It has an adjustable FOV.
Can you bounce back in? I'm just going to show that field of view change there.
Yeah, so it has 65, 78, and 90 as mine, which I assume 90 is the native and the other ones are cropped.
Well, native was, or sorry, native. 90 was the one that just came up by default.
Yeah, which...
And then when you get into actually changing
that
some
is
of
that some of these other ones with slightly wider 80-ish,
there we go.
Like the Razer, for example, or even the 922, I found that, because they're 80-ish or whatever, I found that the edges are a bit fish-eyed. You don't notice that as much on the Brio. So it's a little more natural in its FOV, which is nice.
And again, these filters that just they don't make any sense. But
of course, the software has facial recognition, has all these other things. It has built-in stereo mics with noise cancellation. I would say you're looking at a Brio if you want bragging rights, or you need 1080-60 or 4K. Yeah. If those are things that are important to you, and you have the budget for a $200 webcam, then the Brio it stands by itself.
Yeah,
it stands by itself. I'm going to look at chat here for a little bit and see. Faithful Mess, oh boo, get the thing out of here. X2 compatible or next it.
Thank you.
That's what I did with this $20 one. Stefan is saying, could you do a similar episode with camcorders? That's a tough one, Stefan, and we've tried to do that way back with previous episodes. That's a tough one. Webcams are cheap, camcorders aren't. We try to do that though.
Yeah, unfortunately the camcorders we have laying around the office don't work anymore.
Right. And let's see. What about cameras with Intel RealSense? As far as I understand, Stefan, that is basically just a software thing that you could use with a wide variety of cameras. I don't think it has to be specific cameras for that. Yeah, comment there just saying working over USB with 4K, it's USB 3.0, which is why it's USB-C. So if you want 4K, it must be USB 3, otherwise it won't work. And it does do compression. Actually, the Brio does 2 types of compression at different resolutions. It uses Motion JPEG for some resolutions. It uses H.264 for other resolutions. So in terms of the technology that Logitech packed into this little body, and this thing actually gets pretty toasty when you run it for a while.
It's got the all-metal housing, so that's going to displace a lot of that heat.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And then the other thing is,
if you're running that in there, it's going to.
I think there is a way to remove this, and there is a tripod mount underneath there. I think we did that once before. But anyway, Brio. It's falling over. It's well made though. It feels solid. The packaging is nice on it.
Yeah,
it's great.
Well, it's a nice, sexy little one, and it is like visually, it's a nice upgrade.
It's very
It's very appealing. So it looks nice. It's slick. A little bit disappointing that you can't actually get this onto a mount.
Yeah.
Right. So like I see a little divot on the plastic here. You can take it off, but I don't know. Is this Yusuf's?
Let's not break it.
I don't want to break it.
The other thing I'll note that when I was playing with it is that its autofocus and its general focus range won't get you as close as even a 920 will. Its focal range at closest would be 4 to 6 inches.
Okay.
Whereas a 920 you could get to 2 inches or so. So again, as a close-up camera, it's probably not the choice. But for wide shots, can't be beat. Can't be beat for sure.
Now we have one more that wasn't on our list today.
My compatibility.
All right.
Works on PC, works on Mac. Works great on Webcaster in 1080 or less. A new firmware update for the Brio actually broke our compatibility with the Pearls.
Oh yeah, you went over that, because when you plugged it in, it came up right away saying that there was a firmware upgrade
When I plugged it into Windows, it said firmware update, did that. And when the first time the Brio came out, it wasn't even available to the public yet. We went over to the Logitech stand at a trade show we were at, swiped it from them. Actually, we asked their brand manager really nicely, borrowed it for the afternoon, plugged it into a Pearl 2, It didn't work because of the codec stuff it was doing. And our head of engineering actually logged into the back end of the Pearl and manipulated a bunch of stuff and made it work on the trade show floor. Hacky stuff and made it go. And then we ended up rolling that into a firmware.
Nice.
And now a firmware update to the camera has done something else and has broken that. So now we're going to have to go back to the drawing board.
Schultz.
So thanks, Logitech. Way to go.
Someone get Michael Schultz. We've got to do a live on Epiphan.
I filed the bug. I filed the bug, guys. I do that a lot.
You got a ticket?
Yeah.
Ticket for that?
So the last one, if you really want to spend money.
Yeah, this is where you're going to have to get out your credit card. You're asking your mom for a couple of dollars.
Taking out a loan, maxing out that line of credit.
Exactly. Can I get that raise?
Yeah, make sure your Equifax is up to date.
Yeah, exactly. Checking your credit karma.
Yeah.
Now, this is the Hudley. So we actually pulled this out of our boardroom because we use it for, or sorry, not our smaller meeting room, because we use it for meetings. We use it just about every day. When we're on Skype, you can use it on Blue Jeans, you can use it on Hangouts, anywhere that you're on. But you need to capture a really wide shot. So actually, I could see that in the smaller one now. So this is the only one that we could really do this with. Obviously, it's not great for this particular angle, but it does have this crazy fisheye view.
Yeah.
And it's accomplishing that by just having like a much wider sensor that's a much bigger lens.
It's got a legit lens and legit sensor. It's high quality, no doubt.
Now it does, because this is very extreme. You wouldn't use it the way that we're using it. You would, and I'm sorry, Marta, you want to close your eyes for a second. You'd have it up a little bit higher, right? Not as low as we have just for this example here. But this one, look at those lines in the background. Right, like on a GoPro, those would be pretty distorted. Yeah. These are actually still pretty straight. So because we're so close to the foreground,
although it does fisheye, it's very nice the way it does.
Yeah, exactly. So it actually has that built into the camera. It's not like like something you have for software. But
sorry again, Marta. One thing I don't like is that it's built-in mount. The articulation on it is just this one plate.
Oh,
that's it. There's no double hinge like on the Logitechs. But it does have a tripod mount screw in the back, so you can put it on a tripod to improve it.
Where was that? I didn't see that.
It's on the back. Underneath.
Oh, on the bottom. Okay.
It's USB-C, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so it's USB-C. The packaging is kind of boring but nice because it's just a square block, just kind of cool. But I think the biggest thing about this, if we play with it a bit here, and I think you were going to show it, is it's got some software tricks.
Yeah, so Lisa, bounce us back into the full screen there, and we'll just get a great shot of you, and I can actually show.
You already were cropping and playing with it.
Yeah, I was already cropping.
I was trying to make camera.
So this is like our wide here.
I was trying to make Lisa be
that's
on
close
camera.
enough. There we go. So we can actually zoom in. As I'm like trying to show it, it's not working. Why is that not? Okay, there we go. So. It's backwards, but anyway.
But yeah, there's software for zooming and stuff like that and panning. So when you actually install their software, there's a lot you can do in a very simple tool that actually in Windows appears in your system tray and stuff like that to quickly access it. You can start to get the noise there though when you go in that tight.
Now, I got to ask you, I was looking at the specs online because obviously we don't have a box for this guy and it wasn't part of our blog post, but 720 at 30?
And Stefan was just pointing out, isn't there a full HD model? And I believe they might have one now. We've had this one for a little while. So yeah, it's, but again, considering the cost, right? I don't even remember what the MSRP of this thing is, but it's a lot.
It's a lot. I think we had that, or no, we didn't have that on our breakdown today.
It's like $300 or something like that. Is it? Seriously? Get out of here.
Wow.
Canadian?
Well, George bought it. He bought it on Facebook Marketplace though. So
Beaver Bucks, or
he might have gotten overcharged for that.
Because if that's true, that's insane. Again, I think it's a niche market that this targets, and if you have the money, $200 plus.
Yeah, look at that.
Get the. $750. We're a family-friendly show. Otherwise, I would have said some very nasty words.
This is where they don't have the prices on the website. It's the contact sales link.
Wow.
If you have to ask, you probably can't afford it.
Yeah, exactly. So we're seeing listings for this thing from everywhere from $750 to $1,300.
There's a couple of versions.
Next, as Faithful Ness would say, next
it. And it's not even eligible for Amazon Prime.
What?
I know, right?
Get out of here.
Lame.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's got some cool software tricks, but I don't think I would, especially considering the price, how many Brios I could buy for that. I don't think so. I don't think so.
How many beers you could buy for that?
Exactly.
Brios and beers.
I mean, okay, so at $1,300, you could go and buy a Panasonic G7 or G85 mirrorless DSLR and an AVIO and blow all of these out of the water and destroy them visually.
So probably get a decent lens too for that price.
Well, you'd get two lenses for that price.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah. There's your consumer tip. Don't buy one. Anyway.
But it does have real-time dewarping, which is nice.
It's got some cool
good
software.
feature, and that's
cool
built
software.
in. That's also built into the camera, so it's not something you have to have the software for. But sorry, the software on your laptop.
So
or anything.
Stefan saw me and was me trying to sneak this in. We wanted to mention this. We're not going to actually show you this because buggy. This is a Zoom Q2N. Zoom as in the audio company. They're known for their mobile recorders and other audio gear.
Not for cameras.
Not for cameras, but they do have a line of cameras. The cameras are actually very multi-purpose. This is their base entry-level one. It's about a $500 camera. So price-wise, it's competing with a GoPro. Quality-wise, probably not quite GoPro level.
Well, it's a microphone with a camera. It's not a camera with a microphone.
But the microphone, Zoom style, XY kind of crossover, awesome microphone for what the size it is. Has auxiliary ins as well. Has HDMI out that works great, plugged into a webcaster, but can also have a mode to be webcam mode. But it's been flaky today. Everything I tried to plug it into and use webcam mode,
working?
The camera was shutting down, doing some weird stuff.
Now, is that because it's battery powered? Did you check how
it runs off of USB when you plug it in? When you plug it
was?
into USB, it runs off of USB.
Okay, fair enough.
So it's a bit odd. Of course, it has a tripod mount on the bottom. They have other models that are more kind of barrel shaped in their Q4 and their Q8. Those ones up the audio game even more, up the quality even more. I have a friend of mine who's a professional stand-up comedian, and he uses a Q8 to record his own sets from the back of the club to the front, and it works. And the reason he does it is with the mics, it has XLR ins and it has the built-in mics, so he can either get a master from the board or he can just straight up record the room.
Yeah, you get that room audio or the actual feed from your mic. It'd be really good. And it's good for reference too, and that's the only time, honestly, that's the only time I've seen those out in the wild is at a concert, at a comedy show. Someone will have set it up kind of for prosperity, right?
Yeah, posterity.
For the prosperity.
Yeah, so these are an interesting hybrid camera. Because I think that they have some cool uses, but they're not cheap. So again, it depends on what you're looking for. I couldn't endorse it as a webcam, but I think as something that's maybe more professional than an action cam, but not being used for action, it's probably a very good choice.
Fair enough.
And again, the audio on these, nothing's going to beat built-in audio on this. Nothing.
No.
It'll do up to 1080/30, so again, it's not amazing or anything, but
well, yeah, it's not your action cam that you're going to strap to your helmet and get some sweet 60 frames per second.
And as Cameron pointed out, it's a bit weird that it actually runs off of two AA batteries, or off of USB power. Yeah. SD card goes in, records directly here, but look at that, all the audio and stuff.
Is that micro SD or is that full?
I believe it's micro on this one.
Cool.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's pretty cool. There's a little screen on the back. You can see all the audio meters and play with them. There's different settings. There's different bits and all this stuff. For the audio nerds, this is
totally. And if you do those settings wrong, because I've had this experience with the Zoom, it will let you record it in any way that you like, including the wrong way. So make sure that you've got the settings on there correct, or just use full auto if you're not familiar with it, because the auto settings are great.
We have had a lot of people use these with webcasters with HDMI though.
Okay. Do you get anyone would bring in audio over HDMI from that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So the other thing I guess we'll mention, since we're talking about webcams, of course, are AVIOs. Our own AVIOs behave like webcams, right? As you guys probably all know, because we do talk about it now and then. They're capture cards that behave like webcams. They're plug-and-play driverless, just like all of these. And we have different versions with different video inputs. Yep. So if you are talking about maybe doing a handy cam or a mirrorless DSLR or even a Zoom or whatever, and you want to bring it in and make any camera behave like a webcam, these are the tools you would use. So the AVIO SDI can use 3G SDI, full HD. You can use the HD. I didn't grab the 4K one, but we have a 4K version
Yeah, we have a 4K one hicking around. We got the HD.
You know, you don't have to. You can start here, I guess, as we said off the top. This is a great place to start. But I've noticed that even a lot of the more popular streamers on Twitch are using capture cards and things like the Panasonic G7 or G85, because even though they're doing a fairly tight shot, the image quality you're going to get is always going to be better than a webcam.
Totally, totally.
So, you know, they are looking for a certain level of quality and they're going for it.
Well, I think our creative director probably snuck over here because he was worried about our shot today. Because we usually take advantage of that 2.8 on our lenses, so we have a nice bokeh in the background, it's nice and soft, but I was able to open that up so that we could actually see the table in front of us, and that's something that you can do with a camera versus a webcam. But again, this was focused on just how to get started,
exactly,
kind of getting on your feet with streaming and how to enter in.
Yeah.
And then once those endorsements start rolling in and the sponsor money is just filling in through your front door, then you can go out and buy a nice camera.
Exactly. So out of everything we played with today, money not an object, but you can consider it. What would you buy?
Of course, the PTZOptics camera from our friend Paul Richards at PTZOptics.
Okay. Endorsements
aside. I would like this one. I do like it. It's nice and slick. It looks sexy. I do want to pull it open and see if we can actually do like that mount on the bottom. But yeah, like this was a very good camera, and I think it is expensive, but for the value, it was really good.
Yeah, I find it a bit expensive for what it is. I think at $150, I think it would be a great buy.
So you wait for the sale to come up.
At $200, it's tough, but I as a tech support guy, the replaceable cable. So I guess another.
You said that money was no option. I would take the Brio.
I tricked you. I tricked you. I was trying to make you say the 920 because it's the world's most popular webcam.
All right, let me roll it back. We'll cut this out.
Anyway, we got to go. We're running way long here today.
I think it was my wife texting me. It's like, when are you coming home?
But I would say that we did have one other Logitech camera, one of their Logitech conference something model.
Oh yeah.
It was broken.
I thought that you were going to get into that when you're saying how this was hot pluggable.
There was a short somewhere in the wire, but because it's a fixed wire, basically it's garbage. Replaceable wire solves that problem. There's a consumer advice for the day.
Totally.
That'll wrap up our show.
Thank you very much for watching. It has been a longer episode, but that's okay because you like listening to us go on and on and on. But thanks again for watching. We appreciate you sticking with us. If you do have any comments, any questions, please make sure to throw it up on the VOD. We do monitor our YouTube channel. We take a look at Facebook as well. So if you're watching this episode post, make sure to just comment. Tell us about what kind of webcams you're using that we didn't cover in this episode, or maybe recommendations for improvements on ones that we could support that currently aren't working. But we will be here again next week at 3 o'clock, so please make sure to tune in. And next week we're going to be talking about...
Hopefully, we will be talking about some switchers, an episode a lot of you have actually asked for.
That's right.
If somebody can get his homework done, we'll have some interesting content to talk about. A little piece of kit we borrowed from Roland. So
I'll block some time off in your calendar.
That's your teaser.
So we're going to be talking about going pro with the Webcaster X2 or something else.
And of course, once again, we're live on Facebook, we're live on YouTube, we're live on Twitch at the moment, and we're also live on LinkedIn Live. So we're just all over the place. Someday, maybe Instagram, if they get off their butts. And
we'll get Adam to figure out how to hack that for us. But thank you very much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe, and hit that. Is it on this side? It's on that other side.
The bell.
Hit that little bell.
The bell.
I think the bell's
subscribe,
on this side.
Bell.
Hit
all
the bell.
those things.
Get the ding.
Yeah, exactly.
But thanks very much for watching.
All the notes.
It's good having you back, George.
Is it though?
No, not really.
Okay.
But thanks for watching.